Vertical Slice 1.5 modding is now here for Space Engineers 2, but before we talk about that, I want to quickly mention some things about the future development of the game. For starters, there was originally going to be a Vertical Slice 1.6, which is going to focus on a bunch of tweaks and improvements and potentially adding a little campaign to Space Engineers 2, but the developers have now decided they don't want to do that, and they've instead decided to go full force focusing on Vertical Slice 2, the Survival and Planets update. We've seen a lot recently of what is coming in the Survival and Planets update. A new progression system, a map, and a bunch of beautiful pictures of what planets look like. So if you want to see more information about that, I'll link videos either in the top right or in the description or somewhere. They'll be somewhere. And I'm also going to be making a video soon which compiles absolutely everything we know about this Survival and Planets update for Space Engineers 2 into one video. So like this video and subscribe to this channel if you want to see that. The developers have also mentioned multiplayer, and previously multiplayer was planned to come out in Vertical Slice 4, after Vertical Slice 2, which is Planets and Survival, and then after Vertical Slice 3, which is Water. The developers have indicated they want to do something they call small multiplayer first, so something like co-op or maybe a 4-player multiplayer, before later doing an update that focuses on big multiplayer, so servers and stuff like that. So potentially multiplayer will be coming to Space Engineers 2 sooner than we originally thought. I should also mention that Space Engineers 2 is on sale now, and if Space Engineers 1 is anything to go by, Space Engineers 2 will probably go up in price as it continues with development. When Space Engineers 1 first released in early access, it was around $10, and now it sits around $20. So if Space Engineers 2 is something you definitely want to get in the future, you can get it now for a discounted price. Or, as the Space Engineers developers always say, you don't have to buy it now, you can wait until whatever feature you want is added, whether that be planets and survival, water, multiplayer, pistons and rotors, etc, etc. In addition to modding, they've also made a couple of changes to the game. In Vertical Slice 1.2, the new flight system with ships was added. You can see as I move my cursor, the ship is following the cursor around. But there was previously an issue where the rolling was super aggressive, and that has now been fixed. The rolling is now at a reasonable level, and this makes it feel so much better. This is probably my only criticism of the new flight system. And additionally, they've added a couple new sounds to the game. If I place this cone here, which we'll talk more about in a minute, and then try and place another cone on the side of this one, you can hear that there's a sound indicating that I can't place it. And they've also added a sound to voxel hands, which you can hear now. And also a bunch of other sounds have been added as well. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at modding. So if we load up a new game, you can see that I have two worlds here called Modding World. And if I click on this one, I've got a new button over here called Manage Mods. And if you give it a second to load, you can see I have pretty much every single mod that currently exists for Space Engineers 2 that are all compatible with each other and that all don't crash the game immediately when you load them on one world. So this will probably be the closest I'll ever get to reviewing every single mod of Space Engineers 2. You can also in the top right browse the workshop and you can look through all the mods here. You could do this in Space Engineers 1, but the interface for this is leagues better than Space Engineers 1's in every way. It's just so much clearer here what I'm looking at. And if you go back to the page for enabling mods in the world, this interface is also a big improvement over Space Engineers 1. It's not fully complete yet, but I am very impressed at what I've seen so far. I spoke to a couple of modders and they say that the modding for Space Engineers 2 is leagues better than it was for Space Engineers 1. And the developers have said that these are the same tools that they're making Space Engineers 2 with. So modders effectively have the same tools as the developers in order to create their mods. So this is the part where I'd show you the cable mod, if I had one. There was an issue with Steam where the mod tools for Space Engineers 2 couldn't be downloaded for a few days, but allegedly that's been fixed. However, for some reason, I still can't download them, even though most people now can. Keen have apparently said I have to hit 65,000 subscribers before I can. So I guess that cable mod is never happening, guys. Very sad. So there's a couple of different skybox mods you can access. This is the one that the developers have made as an example. I know there were some people that disliked the previous skybox, so if you want a more muted one, you can download one from the workshop. There's quite a few different skyboxes on the workshop already, and this one I'm currently using is one created by the developers as a modding example. Although I have just noticed the unforgivable sin of a seam on this skybox. Unbelievable, how could they let this happen? Keen, please fix. If you come back to my character, you can see that I've got bronze highlights and a grey chest piece, and my helmet is more grey than it normally is blue. This is because this is an example suit mod from Keen. You can see down on this pouch here, it says Keen Software House, and then on my wrist, it says Don't Panic. And suit modding is something I'm personally looking forward to. I kind of want to experiment with this myself, and when I inevitably can't figure it out, get someone to make a suit for me. Although I have just noticed that Keen have committed a second unforgivable sin, and they've removed the cable from the side of the suit. Unforgivable. How could you do this, Keen? Anyway, if someone can make a mod that blacks out the helmet, I would love that, thank you. One of the example mods demonstrates changing the thruster flames, making them much bigger, which is why this ship has a kind of blue glow about it. If I take off and fly over to that dark area over there, you can see that the thrusting flames are also much larger like the passive ones are. And once we get into the dark area, it actually looks pretty cool with this blue glow around your ship, kind of like there's some sort of aura or shield around it. There's a couple of developer example mods that don't have guides associated with them. There's this one here, which is just a neon sign of the Space Engineers logo. There's the traffic cones we looked at earlier. Really makes me wish for nose cones in Space Engineers 2. There's this here, the Rubik's Cube, which if you press F on, starts to rotate the parts. And I believe if you press F again, it rotates back. Or the top stays at an angle. Might need to look at this one. But still, the ability to make little props like this for bases is going to be really cool in the future. There's a couple of different thruster mods. This one is called Rocket Propulsion System. It includes some covers for thrusters so you can make them look like fully armored blocks rather than just being exposed. And it also includes these two big thrusters here, the one with 4 thrusters on it and the one with 3 thrusters on it. And if I come over to the cockpit, this actually brings us nicely to another mod I've installed. If you look at my speed gauge in the bottom left, I'm speeding up to 300 meters a second. However, you'll notice if I stop accelerating, I actually slow down very slowly. In Space Engineers 2, by default, dampeners are really aggressive, and when you stop thrusting, you come to pretty much a dead stop. However, there is a mod on the workshop that tunes down those super dampeners. So instead, you come to a more gradual stop when you let go of the thrust. And more than likely, you may have a couple of accidents. Whilst we're looking at accidents, I guess it's a good time to look at this mod called Very Basic Working Weapons by Stonelord, who is one of the modders I've been talking to. And he's done a couple of other mods he mentioned as well. So this mod adds 2 weapons, a working version of the Gatling gun, because currently the one in Space Engineers 2 is just cosmetic, and also a rocket launcher. So if we start with the Gatling gun, if I look at my red ship and then hold right click, I can start shooting. Now obviously this is not how Gatling guns will work in Space Engineers 2, this is more like the debug gun from a ship, but man, this is so much more satisfying than using the debug gun. I don't know what specifically about it is, maybe it's because it's just tuned up much higher than debug gun, but it's just so much more satisfying using these ship weapons rather than the little debug gun you have. So if we take these off and we place down a couple of rocket launchers, you can see the same effect. If I press fire now, you can see a big explosion happens instead. So if I fire at this cell, I probably can detach it in a couple of shots. There you go, it's separated, I'm pretty sure. And now it will float away in the ether forever. If you watch Splitsy's video on modding, you'll know that he created a block to align with diagonal catwalks, as you can see here. So you can put it right next to the catwalks, as you can see here, and be completely flush. And then if I place some detailing cubes in, whilst it doesn't necessarily look exactly the same, you can get into that gap and fill it. This mod here is called Messy Locker, and it adds 2 different variants of the locker, and we get a look at some things that aren't actually in the game yet. For example, up here you can see parts of the grinder, and down here you can see the welder, and these up here appear to be the drill bits of the drill. Very interesting, it would appear they are hidden in the code for the game. I'm assuming this down here is some sort of battery for the suit, and then we have like an ammo crate here, and then a med kit down here, and I'm presuming this down here is a datapad. Quack. I'm not gonna lie, that's not the sound I was expecting it to make. Squeak, 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 squeak. The sound I was expecting was this one. The big duck also squeaks, but most importantly, Rubber Ducky Flyable. This Rubber Ducky is a gyroscope and a thruster in one. So, let us go. Off we go to the wild blue yonder as I smash into the ship. Oh god, it's okay, the duck is intact, it's smoking a little bit, but it will be fine, I promise. I don't think Duck 1's gonna make it, guys. F in chat for Duck 1. It's okay, Duck 2. We still have you. There's a mod that adds the light panels for the game. And if I come over to the terminal, like with other lights in the game, you can configure the color of it. So I want it to be bright neon green screen green. I can do so. It probably wouldn't be a very effective green screen with this texture on it, but I can dream, leave me alone. This is just the beginning of modding in Space Engineers 2. In a later update, we'll be getting script modding, which will allow us to build even more advanced mods. And as they add new features like planets and survival and water and multiplayer and NPCs, I'm sure some amazing people will be making some amazing mods. We received a dev diary this week where we received an updated look at planets and water in Space Engineers 2. So we'll be doing a video on that in the future. And we've also got some news about the Space Engineers 1 survival update as well, which is going to include food. And most recently we found out that it's also going to include radiation. So if you want to keep up to date with what's coming to Space Engineers 1 and 2, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. And also, if you want to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a Patreon or a YouTube member with the links in the description below.